Hey, what's going on? I wanted to make this video about the PidZoom Charge Smart. This little device was designed to protect your batteries and keep them healthy. So let's dive into the details. So behind me is the Soleil E24 and it's coming out of a long winter's nap. Hasn't been ridden all winter. So I thought it'd be good to utilize this Charge Smart to make sure that I am keeping the battery safe and healthy. So the way that it works is you have your charger and then you have these connectors that when you order this device, you specify which connectors you need. And it is just a buffer between your charger and the bike. So it connects just like that. And then this is the charging end. And once it's plugged in, then you'll get all sorts of information on this little LCD screen. So let's take a look at that now. All right, so it's plugged into my wall, into my stock charger, into the Charge Smart, then into the bike. And you see we have all sorts of details on this LCD screen. So after taking a look at the Charge Smart and reading the manual to familiarize myself with what's on the screen here, it's actually pretty easy to understand. I'll just break it down for you. So your status is whether or not it's charging. That red dot means it's charging and I can stop it just by pushing that off button. Another nice thing is if you have a power surge, this stands between your charger and your battery. And so this will cut out before it ruins your battery or overcharges the battery. So that's one of the safety features about this device. Also here at the top, I'm pulling in 48 volts and it's pushing out 48 volts from my charger, which is back here in the background. Below it are also the amps that it's pushing in. And so if you know the specs of your battery, for instance, the capacity of the Soleil E24 is 15 amp hours, then that gives you an idea of about how long it takes to charge the battery using the stock charger there. And coming down here to the bottom are your various settings. Right now I have mine set to 55 volts and 2.5 amps. And I'll show you where I got those numbers in just a second, but let's continue to go through what's on the screen here. Up here in the upper right corner is the charge time, how long this thing's been charging, and the wattage that's being pushed out, and the watt hours that have been put into the battery since this charging session started. And then you have this code down here. This will tell you what errors, if any, are happening. So hang on to your manual because that's where you're going to find the different codes. Okay, so why am I set to 55 volts and 2.5 amps? On the back of my charger, it's probably going to be hard to see, but you have your input, and that's 100 to 240 volts. That's just the input from your wall power. So this can handle US plugs and European, anything that's 220 to 240, so anything overseas. And it'll put out 2 amps max. And then the output is 54.6 volts, and that's actually the voltage that my battery can store. And it's just saying it puts it out at 2 amps there. So if I had a charger that had a higher amount of amps, this would actually charge my battery faster. But right now it's charging it at 2 amps. So jumping back to the Charge Smart by PidZoom, I set it at just above the maximum voltage that charger can send at 55.0 volts. That way it gives me a buffer to ensure that I'm charging my battery to the full capacity without overcharging it. So I believe that when my battery hits the 54.6 volts, that this will cut off and stop charging. I also put it just above the amps that the charger is kicking out as well. Again, just to make sure that I have a full battery on this. However, I can actually set this to a voltage below the full capacity, and this would be good for if you want to charge your battery up from 0 but you don't want to charge it to full. If you're familiar with battery hygiene, if you're not going to ride your bike for a while, don't charge it up to 100% if you know it's going to sit for an extended period of time. Ideally, you charge it up to about 80%. Then if you're going to go into long-term storage, anywhere between 40 and 60% is recommended. Now this device doesn't give me the percentage. That's because this can handle all sorts of different chargers and components. So right now this is good for my Soleil E24. Also, I'm reviewing a Hovsco bike that I can utilize this on, which is actually my last video, so be sure to check that out. I also have a Talaria and a Super 73. Unfortunately, they don't have connectors for those, but if they did, I could even charge in the 60, 72 volt range and even beyond. So if you have scooters that are high voltage, you know, your 52 volts, 60 volts, 72 volts, and so forth. So when you're about to buy this thing, make sure that they carry the right connectors for your personal electric vehicle. They have a ton out there. Unfortunately, the ones they sent me for my Super 73 didn't quite work. So I'll be sure to reach out and let them know that. But I digress, got caught off on a tangent there. What I really wanted to talk about is how to set this so that you're not charging your battery to full. So I'm going to throw up on the screen a little chart to help illustrate how you would charge your battery to a certain percentage using voltage, utilizing the Charge Smart here. Because when I first got an e-bike, this actually was a little bit confusing to me. My first e-bike was a Super 73 with a 48 volt battery, similar to the battery on the E24. But I noticed that I could actually charge it all the way up to 53 volts. That's the maximum capacity that that battery can store. The 48 volts is that middle or 50% line of the battery's capacity, and it can go all the way down to 42 volts. So with this, using the chart that I have up here on the screen, I'm also looking at it on my phone, if I wanted to charge to 80%, then I would set that display to 50.8. So that's giving me 80% capacity. If I was going into long-term storage, anywhere between say 46.4 all the way up to 48.6, that would get me into that 40 to 60% range that's ideal for long-term storage. So that's how you use the settings to charge to a certain capacity. Again, they do this because you can use the Charge Smart on a ton of different personal electric vehicles that have all sorts of different voltage ranges there. Now to wrap this video up, I'm going to show you how easy it is to set those settings. So I'll go ahead and hit set, and if I want to increase the voltage or bring it down, you just hit the minus or plus arrow. If you hold it down for a while, then it increases or decreases faster. If you hit set again, you can set the amps that are being pushed out. Again, this is slightly higher than what my charger is doing, but it's just kind of a protection thing. I could bring it down to, let's see, the lowest I can bring it down is to 2 amps there. And one more set is you can actually set your watt hours as well. And then those can also be converted to amp hours. So if I wanted to only charge to 14 amp hours, I could use this wattage there, convert it to amp hours, and use that to kind of determine how full I want my battery as well. And that's pretty much it. This is the PidZoom Charge Smart. I'll have a link to it down below, so be sure to check it out. And I also want to thank PidZoom for sending this to me so that I could share this with all of you. Anyway, that does it for this video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button, comment down below, or ask me questions about this thing. I'll do my best to answer them, and let me know what you think of the PidZoom and if it'll work for your personal electric vehicle. And of course, while you're down there, hit that subscribe button. Have a great rest of your day.